And then we will also unlock Ripperoo sticker, which you can put on your cart if you like Ripperoo a lot.
Well, how could you
How
not?
could you not?
How could
Look
you
at
not?
that face.
A face, a mother could love.
Are you saying I'm ugly? 'Cause I am.
So, PlayStation Underground just had a session with Beanox's co-studio head, Thomas Wilson, for a sneak peek at the adventure mode for CTR Nitro Fueled. Let's have a look, shall we? The first thing we see is what looks like the main menu to CTR Nitro Fueled, which, while foregoing the Crash Bandicoot holding up a trophy of the original, has some brilliant artwork for the adventure mode, which includes Aku Aku with accompanying rainbow magic effect, a key, a relic, and Crash using his jump animation. In the background, we can see the Insanity Beach Winner's Circle, which seems to be held up by tikis rather than just being stone, further proving that each area will have its own identity. On the right side of the screen, we see the main menu layout, including Adventure Mode, Local Arcade, Online, the Pit Stop, and the High Scores menu. I was gonna say that the Options menu was missing, but for some reason they allocated it to the triangle button. That's a weird choice to make. Why not just have it an option like the others? Why make us press triangle?
Why?
That's odd. I will say that I'm going to miss the animated background for the menu, but what we do have is nice. The next screen we see is the load save screen, which looks like it'll have 4 slots just like the original. What's interesting is the options menu is still on triangle, which means that the options menu will be available whenever you want it. I still would prefer a menu slot for options, but this works too. We then get a look at the adventure mode menu, and we see that the game does have 2 modes advertised. Nitro Fueled, which allows you to switch out anything at any time, and Classic, which sticks you with a single character and cart for the whole experience. Nitro Fueled mode also comes with difficulty settings, easy, medium, and hard, for those who need to adjust their challenge level. This will help newer players ease them into the adventure mode, while more experienced players can have more of a challenge. We then see the character menu, which is a double-edged sword. Rather than each character preparing to face Oxide in their own way, Nitro Fueled presents us with a basic character selection menu, and while that definitely lacks some of the charm the original had, it makes up for it with just how much more you can do with the adventure mode, as this adventure mode can be played with any character you've unlocked, rather than sticking you with the original 8 like the previous game had. You can also choose any cart, wheels, or paint you've unlocked. Even Oxide is playable in the adventure mode, according to what this screen has, so you can save the planet from nitrous oxide using nitrous oxide. We also have a cart sets option right here. Is this the ability to save specific cart configurations so that you won't have to rebuild your favorite cart combination every time you want to use it? That'd be great. Then we get a look at the intro cinematic, and it looks amazing. Beanox put their blood, sweat, and tears into every single detail of this thing. Let's start with the way Oxide contacts the main cast. In the original, we hear Oxide's voice, and it's implied that these things here are loudspeakers, and that's how Oxide is issuing his challenge. In this new cutscene, we have Oxide using a giant hologram and interrupting a race to issue his challenge. I love how, when he first arrives, Cortex covers his eyes before slowly lowering his hands. And then he and Coco have a little, who the hell is this? While Oxide issues his challenge. We then get a look at Oxide's spaceship, which has an incredible amount of detail. I never really noticed just how threatening it looked. One would think he'd race with this thing more often, but such is life. We then get a look at his interior, and his control panel is looking a lot fancier than it used to. He has that same camera he was speaking into, which didn't make sense in the old one because he was broadcasting audio, not video. He also has the fuzzy dice that certain content creators got before the game was announced. And one of them wasn't me. I'm not mad. You're mad. And then we get an extended look at Oxide. I love the way he's animated. It feels like they really wanted to emphasize the hotshot nature of his character, especially in how he condescendingly looks at his own fingers while talking about traveling the stars. It then cuts back to Crash and the others, and their reactions are on point. Cortex is skeptical, but as soon as he hears Survival the Fastest, he's completely game. Coco is streaming the entire thing from her phone, and Crash actually fell asleep. I travel the stars, looking for creatures to test my skills. It's a little game I call. Wait, did he fall asleep? Wake up, you miserable creature! I'm challenging your entire planet to a race in which there are dire consequences for losing, and you fall asleep on me? What the hell is wrong with you? We then get this shot of the globe, which also gives us a look at the dice, which reveals that Yes, these are the dice given out to the YouTubers due to some of the pips missing. We then see the characters getting ready to face off in the race so that they can be the one to face Oxide. And let me just say, I love this sequence. All the characters show off their personalities wonderfully, from Coco plugging her car into her computer and startling Purah, to Tiny getting so frustrated that he just smashes his car. Trust me, I've seen people freak out on jobs like Tiny here. Polar trying to read the How to Drive book while Penta just slaps him on the back to correct his reading. Dingodile welding his car only to have it explode in his face. And with more explosive barrels about to go off, to Cortex working on his car by zapping it with lightning, and finally Crash just taking a nap on the grass and accidentally eating a butterfly. Gross. We then open up on Insanity Beach, which looks gorgeous. Much like Crash Cove, Insanity Beach takes place at sunset, and everything just has so much more detail. From the ships in the background, to the Crash statue, to the road now looking more like a worn sandy road. Let's also take some time to look at the Warp Portal, which now has a more technological look to it rather than being a solid color. We then get into Aku Aku's welcome speech, and I love what they've done with Aku Aku. Same great design from Insane, but now he leaves a rainbow aura wherever he goes. The cutscene's also a lot more dynamic, with Aku Aku actually showing the player everything they need to know before they start their adventure, rather than just being a static image telling you about it. I especially love how when he explains how warp pads work, the Crash Cove Vortex actually activates while he's explaining it. He even shows a locked track in order to emphasize that not all tracks are ready to race. A quick drive around Insanity Beach reveals that the load save screens are back, which I'm not too fond of, considering that you can't save anywhere you want, which is something that Nitro Kart actually had over Team Racing. I'm also loving how the Gemstone Valley door looks, with a giant gem-encrusted door that looks fancy as all get out. And we also get a look at Glacier Park Store, which also looks nice. I love the blue. Finally, behind the dialogue, you can just hear the Insanity Beach music, which sounds really good.
That offer challenges. So races, you can race and win trophies. You can collect relics by smashing crates. And in some of the races, collect CTR letters.
It has more of an emphasis on steel drums, which I like. You can never go wrong with a steel drum. Okay, maybe you can. I wouldn't normally go into Crash Cove at this point, but there's something I really wanted to point out. All the other characters at the start line are using unlockable skins and carts that the player has not unlocked yet. Which is interesting to me, because I would think you would want to restrict the computers to only the stuff that the player has unlocked. Weird. We finish up the race and get to the podium animation.
So there's a lot of attention that has been brought to the animations, specifically here when you celebrate and you have a victory. Now...
Well, rip Trophy Girls. Then on to the first Aku Aku hint, which is actually the power slide hint. Interesting that power sliding is the first thing they're going to teach you, rather than telling you about it during World 2. I think it's a good thing, considering this game is built around the power slide mechanic. And finally, they unlock a crash sticker, showing that there will always be an unlockable after every victory. And now we skip ahead to the Ripper Roo cutscene, which first starts off with Roo's cart sitting next to yours, and then we hear Roo's laugh as it pans up to Roo on top of this tall rock. As it shows him hopping up the top of a pile of explosives before challenging the player, he then explodes and lands on his cart before entering his boss garage. I just love this scene, as it shows the type of character Ripper Roo is, insane and obsessed with explosives. Even the music turns bouncy and crazy while he's on screen. The Bosch garage also leads to a swirling vortex instead of just darkness like before. I still have my reservations about it not being a proper garage, but I'm not too bothered. Not much to say about the boss race except that I think the music for each boss is slightly different, as I hear a lot of underwater sounding instruments in this version of the boss race theme. We then get the information that each boss race unlocks the boss you race rather than locking him behind the gem cups, which is pretty neat. We then get a look at Gemstone Valley, which really lives up to his namesake. This place is overloaded with gems and crystals. It looks so bright and shiny. There's even a bunch of night lab assistants up on the ledge here. But the big point of interest is Oxide's spaceship, which is now hovering over a dome instead of sitting on the ground. We also have Oxide's hovering face glaring at you, emphasizing that he's watching you race, and he's waiting.
So, haven't finished racing yet? Well, gather those trophies and meet me here. I grow impatient.
And then we move on to Citadel City, which has a red tint to it, as the city mimics Cortex Castle, which includes a lot of stained glass windows, including a buff Cortex with wavy hair. I like to imagine he just stares at it while wondering why, in a family of acrobats, was he born small and sickly with an oversized head. That's actually Cortex's backstory. The entire reason he's evil is because he was a small sickly kid who got picked on a lot, and when he went into the scientific community and eventually shared his findings with the world, they all kinda laughed at him. We get a good look at the blimps in Hot Air Skyway and Citadel City's podium, which looks dark and gothic, before transferring to Lost Ruins, which takes after Papu's pyramid. I love all the bright reds and lush greens in this area, and when we go down to the Tiger Temple area, we transition from reds to blues to reflect the darker track, before finally entering Coco Park and attempting a relic race. What's interesting about the relic race is that the layout of the boxes are exactly the same, so they really do expect this game to play like the original, so here's hoping. We get Coco's victory animation, and I'm a little disappointed that it isn't her version of the crash dance from Insane, but no big deal, the new one's cute. I feel that Beanox is putting so much effort in this game that it might just knock CTR off of its podium as my favorite video game of all time, but I'll have to get my hands on the final product before I cast judgment. Thanks for watching! If you liked what you saw, subscribe to my channel and ring that little bell icon to receive notifications. It takes 2 seconds and can only benefit you. Also, go follow my Twitter for opinion pieces, shit posts, and the occasional meme. Thanks, and oh my god, it is shiny! Why haven't we seen Dragon Mines yet?